Can you tell me a little bit about what sparked this idea?
Yeah, I mean, as a filmmaker, as a writer-director, you're always looking for an idea which is going to sustain you for the 2-3 years that it takes to make a movie. And so, you know, it started off with me just reading and just following my interests, and something that I was becoming more and more passionate about was kind of artificial intelligence and how that's going to kind of shape society. And the more I read, the more I realized that, you know, there just hadn't been a really good hard sci-fi movie made in a long time. And that's, you know, I love the genre, I love sci-fi, but it all kind of gone into the fantasy realm, and I kind of like stuff based in reality. And I thought, well, that's great, you know, I'd love to try my hand at that. It's one of my favorite genres, and you know, some of my key influences, you know, Blade Runner and those kind of movies. So I thought I'd give it a crack, and so the genesis really was the kind of my passion for the subject matter, and then the story kind of developed through the more research that I did, because I like to research all of my films as much as possible. And I spent like a year reading every book I could on AI and meeting people. I had an off-the-record meeting with a guy at the MOD, which is the British kind of CIA, a guy who was actually building intelligent machines, and he kind of taught me through what he was doing. And part of what they do is they map. They try and map brains to see how brains work, and then try and recreate that in the virtual world. I thought that was fascinating. And through chatting to him, there were parallels between how they're trying to teach machines to think, and how, like, kids with autism, or people with neurological problems, or people with brain damage, how they're being taught to kind of understand the world around them. And I thought that parallel between teaching machines and teaching brain damaged humans was really interesting. And that's where I found the heart of the story. And once I'd found the heart, you know, Vincent, the lead character, trying to kind of help his daughter, that's when things start to get exciting.
Is there any reality in this? Like, clearly people are working on these ideas in real life.
I mean, this guy at the MOD, he's building intelligent machines. That's the thing, and he's mapping. But what he's done is, so far they've mapped a slug brain, so they're kind of quite far off. Next is a mouse.
So we're not going to get a real machine anytime soon.
You'd get a sexy slug doing backflips instead of Katie Lotz. But yeah. So they're right at the bottom of the rung at the moment. We're looking for, you know, it's a way off before a sexy, amazingly powerful female cyborg turns up.
So you do all this research, you get all this information, and what's your process in terms of writing? Are you kind of a note card kind of guy to piece together all the info to build the world?
No, well, it's interesting. It's kind of evolved, you know, because the script took nearly a year to write. It's a long process. It's a really long process, but you know, I like to kind of get all my ideas out in a first draft, which I don't censor, because writing can be too much like work if you put too many rules at first. So I kind of write first draft, and then after that, then it's the process of, well, what is it that you're really trying to say, and kind of once you kind of hone down the themes and the ideas, then you can begin to structure it in a more kind of elegant way that gets those ideas across to the audience as succinctly as you can.
And how about handling that part of this? Because when you create like your own, I mean, this story takes place on Earth, but you're kind of creating your own environment and world. How do you decide when you've given too much information or when you haven't given enough?
Well, you know what? I mean, I'm very guilty of kind of overwriting scenes, because you know, when you write a script, you want, especially the reader, you know, the financiers, you want them to understand it. So I tend to kind of over-explain things in the script, and then once you've got the money, you start cutting out the boring bits in the script and kind of cutting down the scenes and so on. But really, I mean, the final pass, or the final stages of reducing the information down to the core elements comes through test screenings. Because what you do is you screen the film, you screen early cuts of the film to audiences, you give them cards to give anonymous feedback, and they're very straightforward. They'll say, we know that. You know, you don't need to tell us that bit. We get it. We get it from that scene, or we've heard that before. You don't need to bore us with that. And you know, that process was very enlightening in terms of getting rid of all the bits of exposition that we didn't need.
How much did it change? I mean, after seeing this movie, this could have been like a 2.5-hour epic.
It was a 2.5-hour epic, and now it's 86 minutes.
And still with all the right information there. Impressive.
Yeah, exactly. That's the way you do it.
And now
we cut out all just the best bits now.
Pitching it to investors, what was like the hook that you were going for? Like, are you trying to compare it to other sci-fi movies to get people on board?
Do you know what? No, I mean we raised the money with we had an awesome poster, and I think people liked the idea. You know, I just did the kind of the short pitch of this guy who's trying to save his daughter and at the same time developing this futuristic weapon, you know, for the government. And I think it had been such a long time since any kind of independent movie had sort of tried to pull off something like this. I think they gave us money just to see what, you know, what would happen. That was it, really.
Is that intimidating for you at all? Because like the large majority of movies with this subject matter are, you know, massive budgeted tentpoles, and you're trying to pull this off with, I mean, I don't know how much you were working with, but I imagine it's nothing close to that.
It was certainly below 100 million, yes. But yeah, I mean, really, I think what I respond to, and the reason why these 200 million, 250 million pound movies sometimes are so boring, is because it's not because of the special effects, because they're always awesome. The reason these movies are boring is because you don't believe any of the characters, you don't care about any of the characters. And so that's what I concentrated on, and John, the producer, as well, is, you know, we just concentrated on telling an emotional story where you care for the people at the centre of it, and you want them to fail or succeed, and, you know, you're with them in their struggle, and that was our advantage, I guess, is the fact that, you know, we really concentrated on telling a great story and entertaining the audience and moving the audience, and the special effects, you know, which are fantastic in my movie, but they're fantastic because basically the VFX companies loved the idea, loved the script, and just gave it their all, you know. And these are guys who do stuff for Dark Knight, Avatar, you know, really huge movies, but something about the story moved them, and they wanted to get involved.
What did it look like on set? Was a lot of it practical, or was there green screen just everywhere?
No, very little green screen. Very little green screen. I mean, it's amazing what these guys can do. Quite a lot of times I'd say, should we put up a green screen? And they'd be like, nah, fine. I mean, they regretted it sometimes later, but no, it's a mix of practical. Like all good VFX movies, it's a little bit of practical mixed, augmented with CGI. And,
like, for example, the guy in the beginning that's missing part of his head, what did that look like when you were on set?
Again, well, that was a mixture of brilliant makeup and then some kind of removal with CGI. Yeah.
And how much did you have to pre-plan? Because like when you have so much VFX, I imagine you need to like shot list and storyboard to the T. So did you not have any flexibility?
Flexibility? Well, no, not really. You don't really have much flexibility. That's true, especially, you know, with how complex some of the scenes were that I was trying to do. I mean, you answered the question, really. I mean, it's all about planning, you know. I'm a meticulous planner anyway. I mean, I think to get the most out of a film, you really have to go with a watertight plan first. And what that plan does, I mean, many other directors have said the same thing, is having a strong plan means that when you get onto set, actually you can experiment and have fun, and you can think of new ways of doing things because you've already got something that you know works, and so it's a case of building on that.
You totally just answered my next question, because like watching it, I could totally tell that you have everything set just the way you want it, because there's not a shot in this film that can't be freeze framed and make for the perfect poster.
Oh, I'm so pleased you say that. I mean, it means so much to me to how a film looks and how it's lit, and, you know, I mean, I love working with the actors. That's like my favourite thing, but my second favourite thing is how to light them and how to frame them and how to compose a shot, and, you know, trying to, you know, that was some of the improvisation, was, you know, getting onto set and going, can I cover this in one shot? And that's a lot of fun, you know.
And can you tell me a little bit about the use of silhouette and also lens flares here? Both of those really stood out to me in particular, because a lot of times, you know, you see things like that and it's kind of tacky, and here it's not. Can you tell me about formatting those so they advance the story a bit?
Well, you know, I mean, I think I agree with you. A lot of times lens flares look awful, and the reason for that is they're done in post. So if you watch a music video, it's, you know, it's quite trendy these days, especially after J.J. Abrams, to chuck in as many lens flares as you can, and it's often done in the edit. And what I really wanted to do was, because they can be so beautiful, you know, the movies that inspired me, 70s movies, you know, those lens flares, they're not done in post, they're done because the glass wasn't coated properly, you know, the old lenses, and I really wanted to have a mix of the old technology of the lenses with the modern story that I was telling. And also because I shot on digital, the reason I wanted to use anamorphic lenses is because it really softens the digital image and makes it feel less like video. And I love the Arri Alexa camera, but having all that old glass in front of the sensor just gives a real filmic quality to it. And they're the movies I grew up on. You know, I didn't grow up on watching digital movies. I grew up watching, you know, 35mm, and I guess for me that feels like cinema, and that's something that I was interested in. And also, I mean, a lens flare is another tool for telling a story. You can use it just like any other kind of light on set to kind of augment the mood, or to make you feel something different about a different type of character. And so it was an important tool, storytelling tool for me.
Is there any particular shot or scene that you're especially proud of?
Well, I mean, I think that there are a lot of scenes that surprisingly turned out as I imagined them. You know, there are a lot of things that we really managed to pull off. I mean, I think there's a lovely shot where the machine has just she's been cut out of the suit, and she's having the first test where she's looking in a mirror, and the camera pulls out from her reflection in the mirror. She's looking at herself, and then we see Vincent talking to her. They're moving across and then finding her, and then her mouth opens and this beam of light kind of comes out. It's great. So, yeah.
How is it directing her too? Because she's a person and then she's a machine, and she's supposed to have life to her but also be robotic at the same time. Were there any like key pointers that you wanted her to keep in mind?
Well, you know, when I was writing the script, it kind of occurred to me that any kind of new life form would go through not the same, but a kind of similar sense of you know, from toddler to teenager to adult to, you know, embittered and cynical, you know. So that kind of, that growth is something that Kate and I talked to, and she was really, I mean, she's just such an awesome actress, and she really kind of went through the script and took that idea and sort of came back to me with ideas of, well, in this scene she's 2, in this scene she's 5, in this scene she's 6, and we kind of talked through that, and that evolution, which of course is obviously much more rapid because she's a machine, and not quite as simple. You know, it's not like she's, well, exactly like a toddler, but in terms of her innocence and her outlook on life and her understanding of people, that was something that we talked about, and that was a lot of fun. And in contrast, you know, in contrast to the machine with Ava, both physically and mentally, that was something that a lot of that's in the script, but a lot of it came through rehearsal and improvisation, which is a key part of how I like to make films. You know, I like to kind of spend a long time rehearsing with the actors first, which again frees you up on set to play with light.
What was your schedule like? I mean, if you had rehearsal time, I imagine maybe it wasn't as rushed, the production, as most small films?
Rehearsal is so much cheaper than filming. You know, if you try and rehearse on set, that can be incredibly expensive because you've got the whole crew hanging around. So luckily, Katie and Toby agreed to kind of meet me for sort of 5 days before the shoot, and so we had time for them to get to know each other and for us to work through the scenes. And a lot of rewriting happened during that period because, you know, they're really smart guys, and, you know, as we went through the scene, I could say, well, actually Toby's doing that with a look, I don't need to explain that, or that bit of dialogue actually would be better if it started here instead of there, we can come to the scene later. And so that was a wonderful part of the process. Did
you get to shoot in order? Like, I was just thinking, for her sake, it might be awkward to shoot the human portion and the machine portion mixed together.
Unfortunately, I look forward to that luxury on another film. But no, you're right. It would have been much better to do it that way, I think. But do you know what? I mean, films are such a puzzle anyway that you just get used to it. I mean, I come from a short film background, and even short films, even when you're only telling a story over 10 minutes, you're often shooting on the last scene of the film first, and you know, so you kind of get used to puzzling, and that's my job as a director. My job, the director's job, is to go, no, you're not feeling this at this moment because that hasn't happened yet, and actually save that emotion for later because this, you know, that's kind of, so that's just part of the job, is helping people understand how it all fits together, even though you're shooting out of order. But I mean, we were limited by locations. That's the main reason we didn't shoot in order, because we had to wrap this location first. So we kind of did the lab stuff first, and then we moved over and we did the you know, the underground corridors, and then we went somewhere else. You can't go back and forth. You have to do all the little bits and pieces.
The dream would be all of that in one facility, and you could just pop from room to room.
It would, yes, exactly. Yeah.
Well, it looks that way, so.
Oh, well, that's good. That's good.
Can you tell me a little bit about the reception last night? You feeling good? Did you like how people reacted?
Well, I'm waiting for the reviews. I'm on tenterhooks to see, what people really thought of it, because people are very nice to your face, but, you can never tell until they're anonymously on the internet.
Do you have any hopes for distribution? I mean, what do you think of digital distribution now? I mean, I personally love how it makes it more accessible, but we like to see things like this on the big screen too.
Yeah, well, exactly. I mean, obviously this is made for the big screen. I've made it cinematic and as epic as I could, and so, obviously I want people to see it in the cinema, but I'm not snobbish about it. I love how VOD is opening up the film to whole new audiences, and that's something I'm really excited about. I'd love to have that kind of platform in the States. And I did we've already kind of sold the movie to quite a few countries, and some of them don't have widescreen TVs as a nation. Most of them are still on 4:3. So I've actually already done a panned and scanned version of the film, and because of course it's proper widescreen, it's 2.39 to 1. Anamorphic, and so I thought that was going to be really daunting, and of course it totally changes the movie, but I didn't resent it, because I kind of thought to myself, well, more people are probably going to see it on 4:3 than anamorphic than the original aspect ratio, and it's kind of, so I really spent as much time with the grader kind of crafting all those pan and scanning, because I thought, well, wouldn't it be great for them to at least see my version of the 4:3 instead of, rubbish one.